Nigerians in the diaspora formed groups of committees to launch crowdfunding initiative for the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi. This is in a bid to bolster Obi's chances in the 2023 presidential election, which holds 178 days from now. The plan is to unveil in the coming days a crowdfunding portal with a target of $150 million from Mr. Obi's supporters in the diaspora and $100 billion from those in Nigeria. The initiative is being driven by young, enthusiastic Nigerians in the tech sector who are making waves and yearning for new leadership at the helm of affairs in the country. Let's talk about this, Leila.
Well, this is very interesting. I mean, it's no surprise given the amount of support and outpouring that we've seen for Peter Obi over the past few months from Nigerians, not just at home, but also in the diaspora. As we know right now, I'm not sure if his tour is complete, but Peter Obi has been going around to different cities around the world where he has a lot of support from the Nigerian diaspora. I know he was in Frankfurt at a town hall recently. So this support is expected to come. However, what I'm interested in is also knowing what the laws say about how much you're allowed to raise through crowdfunding when it comes to elections, because Doctor, maybe you may know a bit more than me about this, but I believe that earlier on this year, the laws were changed with regards to how much was allowed to be spent on elections at election time. And if a certain amount in crowdfunding is seen to go over that, then there may be a certain problem there. However, it's good news for his campaign because this is the sort of support that a third force like Peter Obi needs, because as we know, the funds are not readily available in the Labour Party as they are in the other two major parties. So I guess this is rather exciting news, but those little things and loopholes around the law is what I'm quite interested in knowing more about here.
Okay. It seems to me that, look, crowdfunding provides a very vast opportunities. We've seen it being used in other jurisdictions in the United States and all of that. And you are right, the Electoral Act 2022 puts a cap on the amount of money that, individuals can donate. The Electoral Act also has a special provision that after the election, contributions to the campaign should be declared and proper filings should be done with the electoral body. The whole idea is to ensure that the electoral process is not monetized, is not hijacked by money bags, the kind of experience that we have had in this country. In the previous election, in 2019, INEC had issues getting the political parties to follow the law and make provide proper financial reports. Many of the parties kept dodging. Well, only God knows how that was resolved eventually. But the thing about crowdfunding is that it provides an opportunity in the age of technology, to make small donations. Okay? So that way you can easily circumvent the law because it's not expected that, $100 million will be put down by only one person. So this will be sourced from different people. What the law then requires is that even if it's small contributions, as we have seen in the US, you still have to make proper declaration of what use that was put to in the course of the election. That's the first point. The second point has to do with the growing popularity of Mr. Peter Obi, the candidate of the Labour Party. One major criticism of his movement, as it is beginning to become, is the fact that, people say he doesn't have political structures. Where can he point to structures within Nigeria? Some people say, his structures are available only on social media. Part of the reasons given for this crowdfunding that some young Nigerians have introduced is to provide him an opportunity to have resources to set up that funding. So one is an affirmation of his popularity, particularly among young persons in Nigeria and also in diaspora. And, it's an expression also of support. The reason stated is that, look, this person supporting him want to ensure that he constitutes a very strong third force instead of the APC, the traditional PDP, so they are supporting the move for the emergence of a very strong third force. And clearly, we can all see it that the 2023 race will end up more or less, as it were, as a three-way race among the PDP, the APC, and now the Labour Party. The third point is the growing influence of the Nigerians in diaspora. Now, Nigerians in diaspora, there is nothing like diaspora voting, either in the Constitution or in the Electoral Act. When the National Assembly considered the over 80 amendments to the Constitution as proposed. Diaspora voting didn't sail through to the next level. But it looks like an issue that someday, Nigerians will have to look at. After all, in some other African countries, including Kenya, they have diaspora voting. So I see, this again as an illustration of the fact that Nigerians in diaspora are heavily interested in what goes on in Nigeria. And many of them, are looking for alternative. Many of them are looking for change based on their experience in the various jurisdictions in which they live. And, they are ready to put their money where their mouth is. And that, I think, is a very remarkable development. Not leaving out the fact that in many of the Western capitals, these major political parties, they have chapters. You have chairman, PDP UK. You have chairman, APC Canada. So that means that many of our people who are abroad, they are not disconnected from their roots or the politics or how Nigeria is governed. Now, the fourth point has to do with, Mr. Peter Obi himself. He's been touring the Western capitals. He was in California yesterday, and he used the opportunity to sell his ideas to Nigerians in diaspora. And in the very detailed report in the Disney newspaper this morning, he stressed the importance of the diaspora community. And there's no doubt that the diaspora community is important. After all, the Nigerian Constitution recognizes dual citizenship. So the fact that you live abroad does not rob you automatically of your citizenship of Nigeria, except you renounce it. So, and then he talked about his programs, his interest in education, in transparency, in accountability. And you may then say, well, why preach to people who will not vote? Well, we go back to that original point about the growing influence, impact of persons in diaspora. Many of the people in diaspora, they are breadwinners for their families back home here in Nigeria. They are in touch with constituencies in Nigeria. And we have seen through the work of the Diaspora Commission led by Abike Dabiri Erewa and the activities of Nigerians in diaspora organizations everywhere, how there's that connection between home and outside. I don't want to use the word exile. Many of them are not on exile. They have chosen to live abroad, but they are connected to home.
I mean, very, very well said. And when you look at the trajectory of elections everywhere in the world, you need money. Money is a really very important factor. And what has bedeviled most, third-party candidates or third force, as you may see, has always been the case of money. So the diaspora community having this target is another way, to raise money for his campaign and to be able to help his campaign, 150 million. And it just shows that there are creative ways around making money. You talked about the INEC threshold. I think it's about 5 or 10 billion for the presidential election, that you shouldn't go more than that in spending. But there are creative ways. Even in America, there are supposed to be guidelines and the likes. And money is very important because there are some presidential candidates that drop out of the presidential race the month they stop raising money. So the dynamics are different. People are making donations to your campaign. You're raising money. When you don't raise money, you drop off. It's just like the case in Nigeria.
It totally changes the dynamics.
So it changes the dynamics. But to go one step further, there are many creative ways. And I think America pretty much leads the way in this. There are two very highly successful brothers. They used to be called the Koch brothers back in the days. They were the biggest funders to the Republican Party in America. Across every election, they make big donations to the Republican Party. And apart from that, America has also taught us things about super PACs, where a coalition of people come together. They have, fundraising schemes. They raise the money themselves and they use it for elections. So it's not directly connected to the candidate. So you can't say he's breached any spending quota. And they buy ads themselves and buy campaigns on behalf of the candidates. So they do that, and they do it successfully, and they do it very well. A great case in point is the recent super PAC that were Republicans, but they fought against Trump, called the Lincoln Project. That they were Republicans, they were disgruntled with Trump, but they raised money and they bought ads against Trump. They supported Biden. The second point I would like to make is about the diaspora. In fact, I think the first person that made mention of the importance of the diaspora community leading up to his election in 1993 was Bashir MK Abiola, where he talked about the fact that a lot of people in diaspora will come back. if he was elected. But we all know how that story went. In 1999, Olusegun Obasanjo did the same. In fact, he went to reach out to them. And the bulk of the people that came back from the diaspora added to the Nigerian economic growth from 1999 to about last year, when lots of them started to leave because of the economic compass. Umar Musa Yar'Adua, too, when he was elected, as president-elect, one of the first things he did was to meet the diaspora community in Germany and the likes, and talking to them about the possibility back home. And that's why, like, I support Dr. Abati when you talk about, diaspora voting. It's really very important. And that's why I was very sad when the Deputy Speaker of the House of Assembly, of the House of Representatives, just pushed it aside like it didn't matter. Because these people contribute so much. They contribute well over 20 billion to the economy. The first quarter, Q1 2022, the diaspora community has contributed $5.46 billion to this Nigeria economy.
And they should have a
They are the movers of this economy. Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari has promised not to allow intimidation and interference of any sort during the 2022 elections. The president disclosed this when he received members of the Progressive Governors Forum, led by the chairman and governor of Kebbi State, Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, at the presidential villa today. He says any leadership that thrives on intimidation will not benefit the nation, and that the APC under his leadership will continue to respect Nigerians by ensuring that their votes count and Nigeria's people's voice matter in choosing political leaders at different levels. Citing the elections in Ekiti, Anambra, and Osun State, he also said, assuring Nigerians that the APC-led federal government will continue to build strong political institutions that will reflect the choices of people through non-interference in elections. Meanwhile, presidential candidate of the All Progressive Congress, Bola Tinubu, has been meeting with former President Goodluck Jonathan at the Abuja residence of the latter. Campaign officials said Tinubu, APC governors, and leaders of the campaign team visited Jonathan to consult and pay homage to the elder statesman. The APC presidential candidate was accompanied by his vice presidential candidate, Kashim Shettima, chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, and Kebbi State Governor, Abubakar Bagudu, Plateau State Governor and DG of APC Presidential Campaign Council, Governor Simon Lalong, and Governor of Ogun State, Dapo Abiodun, and Zamfara State Governor Bello Matawalle, and some APC chieftain. Former President Goodluck Jonathan has previously been courted by the APC leaders, but is yet to declare formally for the party, despite earlier calls on him to do so, and contested the 2023 presidential election months ago. Jonathan had for some months been evading the meetings of the known political party, the People's Democratic Party. A lot to talk about on Chew On this morning. Leila?
That last sentence that you ended with there, how for months he's been evading meetings with the PDP. And obviously, as we know, some months ago, it came out ahead of the presidential primaries that former President Goodluck Jonathan could be someone who was in the running under the APC. Then that turned out not to be the case. So it will be interesting to see how these relations all pan out. But then at the same time, as we know, these are the usual rounds around election time. So it doesn't seem like there's anything surprising there. Same thing with the president's statements on non-interference, the usual statements that we hear around election time. The question is, how do we translate that into actual action? Because that's what the people care about.
Dr. Batson?
Okay, I don't know where the scriptwriter got that President Jonathan evading the PDP, where that came from. That's completely of no moment, because he's still a member of the People's Democratic Party, and nowhere is it on record that President Goodluck Jonathan has said that is no longer a member of the People's Democratic Party. People make their own choices politically in terms of the level of visibility that they attach to their political activities. That's the first point. The second point, I don't think it's anything unusual that the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and APC governors and APC leaders paid the courtesy visit to former President Goodluck Jonathan. We have seen this as a pattern. These same politicians across political parties have gone to Minna to see the two former heads of state there. Many of them have trooped down to Abeokuta to see President Olusegun Obasanjo. The truth of the matter is that, look, that's how politics is played. It's good optics to be seen to be wooing former leaders of Nigeria, especially as whoever becomes the president of Nigeria will preside over the Council of State. And all these former presidents, former chief justices of the Federation, all the way down the line, former Senate presidents, they are members of the Council of State. So if you are going to become part of that, community of leaders, it makes sense. It's simple courtesy. It's even, an African thing, even if we're not talking politics. To go and say, well, you were once there, I want to come there too, even if it's for counseling, even if it is for optics. So we're likely to see more of this, and then it will be presumptuous, to read meanings that are not, indicated into any of these meetings or any of these visits to former heads of state. You recall that in the case of President Olusegun Obasanjo, he has come out to say, no, he's not endorsing any candidate. He's only interested in a national agenda. I'm sure if we were to, question President Jonathan too, he too will tell you he has not endorsed anybody, and he probably will not do so publicly. If he wants to express any support, he would play the natural game of supporting the candidate of his own party. The same way in which President Muhammadu Buhari has made it clear that he's supporting the candidates of his own political party. I guess that's how, how it goes in politics.
I mean, there's nothing, it's politics season, people have visits across the aisle, the optics look good for them. There's nothing, no big deal about this. But I want to talk to supporters of politicians. You see now that why you shouldn't die in their war. This was the same President Jonathan that this APC and the person that went to visit him 8 years ago called the worst thing that ever to happen to Nigeria because of politics. Called the most evil man. In fact, they even carry mock coffins of how he was dead all over the country because they wanted votes. This was the same man they said had ruined Nigeria so much. Corruption was an all-time high. He was a fool. He was an idiot. He should go. But look at it today. He's the elder statesman. That's to teach you supporters that please don't die in the war of these politicians. They will kiss and make up in the end, but if you had killed yourself, you are the fool here. There's this joke they normally tell about that Warren Buffett will say that if you see two people playing poker, after the first 20 minutes, if you don't know who is losing, who is the patsy in the game of poker, then you are the one losing. And in the game of poker, this game politicians play, all right, it's always the Nigerian people that are losing. Because you are the ones killing yourself over them. What you should challenge are the ideas and thoughts they'll put forward and debate that. And don't hurt yourself. But I'm sure this is a clear indication for all of you that don't die in their war. This was the same people. Just 8 years ago, down the line, same person they called, never do well, all sorts of names. But look at them. He's an elder statesman today because they've moved on. So just imagine if you had killed your neighbor because he had various views or he supported another person. Then the neighbor will have died in vain while the politicians will move on. And they will always move on because it's about their interest. Think.
It's always about self-interest.
Think. The chairman and editor-in-chief of This Day Arise Group, media group, Nduka Baigban, has paid a visit to thank Emir of Kano, Aminu Ado Bayero. The visit followed the attendance of the Emir at the funeral ceremony of the matriarch of the Baigbana family, Dame Margaret of Baigbana in Owa, Yibo, Delta State. Prince of Baigbana conveyed their appreciation of the family to the royal father.
Your Royal Majesty, we come with the entirety of our community in Delta State and in Nigeria to thank you so very much from the bottom of our hearts for coming to give us succor at the most important time of the loss of our mother. As a father, you reached out to us. As a father, you wiped our tears. As a father, you embraced us. And we've only come to thank you so very much and to pledge our friendship, loyalty, and support with the good people of Kano and the Emirates under your able and glorious leadership. Thank you so very much, Your Excellency. Thank you.
All right, your take on that, Dr. Bati? And Dr. Bati, you first.
Well, I mean, what is there to add? I mean, the Emir of Kano was quite gracious. He was, in Delta State to attend the final obsequies for the mom of the chairman of the Arise This Day Media Group. And in African culture, when you have an event and people visit you at home, it's just normal African etiquette, or basic etiquette, let me say. Let me not say African. To say thank you. And that's precisely what, Prince Sunduka Obaigbena has done. Just simple courtesy, which is okay, and which is also the beautiful thing about our culture as Africans, as Nigerians, as people with a history of culture, ethics, and you can see this looks really very good, and the people who talk about North-South divide, well, at certain levels, at the level of humanity, that divide, that, proverbial divide, doesn't quite exist because people are first and foremost human beings, whatever other affiliations they may have.
And kudos to the Emir, because he didn't just come, he stayed, he was part of the process, and he empathized and he grieved, with the Obaigbena family, and that was really, really lovely, sight to behold, and like Dr. Bati did say, the cross-cultural interplay. I mean, I saw the Emir of Kano coming up to the Owa Igbo kingdom, and there's an interface. I believe when we have more conversations across the Niger, when we sync, when we come together, there's a whole lot more understanding, we can do. I mean, I think the words were very apt. There was a conversation between two national leaders in the 50s and 60s in this country, when one saw the other and they said, let us forget our differences. And the other one said, no, let us understand our differences. And how do we understand our differences? From conversations, from cultural mix, cross-cultural mixes like this. The Emir coming, to the Owa Igbo kingdom, President Obaigbena represented the Owa Igbo kingdom, also going to say thank you to the Emir. And there's a whole lot, interplay we can do. And that is good for peace and unity in Nigeria. We can build a strong, solid nation, hedged in peace and unity when we have interactions even more. So let us seek to understand one another. Let us seek to talk to one another more. And I feel most of the tensions we have, if we talk to one another more, not at one another, then I think we can douse things down. But this is a good sight to behold, and it's a solid sight for the unity and overall development of Nigeria.